Let's look at an example of how Supplier Connection can work. I was recently talking to a sourcing professional from a large company who said that in 10 months her company was going to open a new technical facility in Florida. It was an expansion into a new territory where she didn't yet have current supplier relationships. She really wanted to work with firms in Florida to ensure that her company was connected to the local business community. And she also wanted to target minority firms as her company is increasing its focus there. The first search that she did on Supplier Connection was to find a local staffing firm that concentrated on staffing technical positions and had a strong network in Florida. We went on Supplier Connection together and searched for HR service firms in the state. We found that there were more than 60 relevant firms. We then filtered down for technical staffing organizations, and within a few clicks of the mouse, Supplier Connection presented her with 4 potential firms. She saw that these firms did business with several other Supplier Connection buying members, and she immediately began reading their profiles to determine which were minority-owned. She also looked at which ones focused on staffing services, were growing, and large enough to help with hiring 300 new employee positions overall. So the good news, Supplier Connection had 4 such firms in the database, and she saved lots of time compared to what it would have taken to call around to her network to identify possible firms. In minutes, she was able to get a lead on firms that might help her. She felt the power of an information-rich database, and she added capacity and depth to her network by using Supplier Connection. The bad news, though, 2 of these firms had barely completed the minimum requirements for providing information on Supplier Connection. Their profiles were technically considered to be 100% complete, as they provided the bare minimum of detail, but they didn't use all of the features and didn't include details in all the areas. From her examination of these 2 limited profiles, she couldn't ascertain answers to her real questions. Important questions such as, are these firms really staffing companies, or are they more focused on other HR services? Do these suppliers have the capacity to help with a 300 position opportunity? Do they work with other large firms? Are they stable? Have they been growing, shrinking, or staying steady? And what percentage of their business is done in Florida? Are they really local experts or just headquartered there? And do they focus on retained or contingency search opportunities? And why do they prefer one over the other? How is their management leading the firm, and what's their vision? So wow, that's a lot more than a standard or limited data profile might answer. In fact, because she only had 4 companies to analyze, she didn't disqualify any of them initially and started to make some calls. She prioritized her call list based on the 2 firms that answered all of the profile questions and had embedded videos, brochures, and capability statements into their Supplier Connection profile. She then spent extra time investigating their website, social listings, and references, all of which she found right through their Supplier Connection listing. One had embedded a 2-minute video of the CEO of the firm talking about how her firm was expanding, what they specialized in, and why working with the local firm was an advantage in their market. The CEO was herself a minority, and this affirmed the buyer's interest in researching the supplier in more depth. This CEO got the first call and immediately hit it off with the buyer as she called out her references on Supplier Connection and links to other buying members. She was also able to convince the buyer of her firm's past success in technical recruiting. The short end of the story, the buyer considered this lead firm and the other firm who had provided extensive information on their Supplier Connection profile. The other 2 suppliers never got a call. That's an important lesson about using all the features of Supplier Connection to differentiate your firm and make it easy for buyers to understand your sweet spot, your current clients, and your overall capabilities. They want to work with proven companies that can add capacity easily and won't be overwhelmed from working with larger clients.